Greetings. This is Justin Allen, the Elite Nurse Practitioner. Welcome to the Elite Nurse Practitioner Show, a podcast dedicated to nurse practitioner entrepreneurism and achieving financial freedom, where I talk directly with nurse practitioners who need help. Listen up, our market is saturated. Jobs can be scarce. We are underpaid. We are undervalued. We are taken advantage of by the sharks within the healthcare system. And frankly, screw that. Sick of it. And it's time for a change. And listen, I'm here to help make that happen. We are powerful. We can forge a path where we are in control of our career and ultimately our financial and personal well-being. You do not need to submit to healthcare administrators and your doctor overlords. You do not have to take the measly salary. You do not have to work 50 to 60 hours a week. There is a different way, and I'm here to show you that path. This podcast is raw and unfiltered. I have not talked with the nurse practitioners in this podcast prior to the call outside of an email exchange to schedule the episode. What you're about to listen to is a consultation session between a nurse practitioner and myself. It is real, it is unscripted, it is unplanned, and I have no idea what we're going to talk about. Anything and everything can happen during our conversation. The nurse practitioners in these episodes are struggling with an issue in their professional or financial life, and they have reached out to me for help. My goal is to help the nurse practitioner with actionable advice that will enhance and improve their professional, business, and financial life. My other goal is to hopefully help my nurse practitioner sisters and brothers build a more productive, powerful, and free life. So I hope the content and information within these podcast episodes does just that. All right, onto the episode.
Hi everyone, today we'll be talking to Ciara, who is a family nurse practitioner. Currently she is operating her own wellness practice where she focuses on weight loss and hormone replacement services, but she's wanting to add functional medicine to her clinic soon. She's needing help with hiring other providers, developing passive income streams, and building a business that she can eventually sell. So, hey Ciara, how are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm doing good. All right, let's go ahead and jump into this. So tell us a little bit about yourself, how long you've been a nurse practitioner for, and what sorts of things you've been doing.
Sure. So I've been a nurse practitioner for about 11 years. I basically got my RN, worked for 1 year, said, I don't want to do this, and went right back to school. I did some primary care, urgent care. Then I took some time off to just be a stay-at-home mom. And for the past 2 years, I found your courses and developed my own business. I am virtual only, so that makes it really nice and flexible because my priority really is kind of being mom and then kind of adding this in. I'm not trying to I'm very blessed in the way that my husband brings in all of the income, and the money that I make is just kind of either going back into the business or whatever we want to do with it. So
yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So you started this practice when?
2 years ago. It'll be 2 years in April.
2 years ago. Okay. Well, how's it going?
Yeah, it's going really good. I mean, that first year was just kind of like dabbling. My gross was 20 grand. And then last year I ended with like 102. I put super minimal effort into it. Like I said, this has just been like, let me just play with it. And then I realized like, oh, I can actually like do this and I can make money. So now I'm at the point where I really do want to do this. I want to take it to the next level, but I also don't want to put more of me into it. Like I hear a lot of people who are like, oh my gosh, I was just like working to the bone. And I am kind of wanting to hire out and just sort of be in charge of this business rather than working in it.
Right. What's your revenue like, if you don't
mind?
Sure.
So what did I do last year? Well, I like bought a lot of courses and put a lot into it. So I think like last year I was at 15 grand that I actually like paid myself.
Yeah.
But like, so monthly, like gross, it's about 15 and I pay myself like 2 to 3, or I just put back into it. So it's not huge. It's still like a tiny baby when I hear everybody else talk about their businesses. But like I said, I've also done like zero marketing. It's all just been word of mouth. And I know that I could get there. I can put a lot more into it, but I just don't want to make myself as available. So I'm also 6 months pregnant right now. I have another nurse practitioner who's a brand new NP who loves women's health. She's very flexible, wants to kind of join into this. And when I texted my like group of other elite NPs and I was like, hey, should I hire her? And they're like, did you hire an MA? Did you hire an RN? I'm like, oh no, I haven't hired anybody yet. And I'm like, well, is this silly? Like I'm going to start with a nurse practitioner instead of like other little things.
Well, I guess okay. Well, let's dive into that. So,
Okay.
how much busy work are you doing? Scheduling patients, answering phones, just
You
busy
know,
bullshit like that.
I've done a lot of like self automation. So I'd say like a lot less. Like my EMR schedules for me. I don't know, maybe like 2 or 3 hours. Or if there's something like I need to like sit and figure out, like, oh, I'm doing a new service. I need to do a new email like form situation. So I don't know. I'm putting max like 12 hours into this a week. And that's like including seeing patients. So it's very, very minimal.
So walk me through this then.
Hmm.
So if you hire another nurse practitioner,
Right.
how's that going to look? Like, who's going to check the patient in? Who's going to order the meds through the compounding pharmacies? Like, who's going to do all that stuff? Are you going to do that?
Okay. No, I would have her do it. So since I'm virtual only, like they just book through the online website, Optomantra. It sends them all their forms. They fill it out. So she would see it, and then I have it so my EMR, like you can order the compounding meds through there. So she can just put her orders in. She can order her labs through the EMR. Um, and eventually, like after I trained her, that would kind of, I just feel like be on her. So those extra things are not really
Right.
an
Okay. I
issue.
got you. Yeah. Okay.
Um,
So yeah, I think that would work. So when I had my online HRT practice that I sold, that's pretty much what we did. Like I didn't really
yeah,
have. I mean, I hired a virtual assistant eventually when it started getting busy, but like I would do that. I
yeah,
would have the providers go in, order the lab work, order the meds, whatever. It was
yeah,
part of their job, right? So I mean, if you have
right.
it pretty streamlined through your EMR, then yeah, I don't see a problem with that. So like any kind of customer service issues or whatever, you would deal with it, not that a nurse practitioner. They would just be seeing
Yeah,
patients, order meds or whatever.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Um, well, yeah, I mean, I don't think that you need someone else then at this point. I mean, I think it'd be kind of a waste of time, right? I mean, it
Yeah,
doesn't
because
sound
I
like
can't even really think of like what this other person would be necessarily doing for me, besides like marketing, but I don't mind doing that. I also have a lot of connections with the medical community. My husband's a physician, and he's actually able to work in my business now. So he's seen like a handful of patients, and it's nice because I don't have to pay a collaborating physician. He's kind of built in. So I feel like hiring another NP like works because it's not really a lot of upfront cost from me. Um,
yeah, I mean, you just pay in production, right?
yeah, yeah.
Right. Yeah. How many patients do you have right now?
Probably 140. There, yeah, like that's what's total, like in my EMR. Like it's not, they're not all consistent, I guess, because
Right,
some
some
have
of them
fallen off.
probably
Yeah,
fell off and whatever.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so if you hire this NP, then what are
Hmm.
you going to be doing then? I guess, are they going to be seeing some of the patients that you already have? Are they going to take over kind of yours, or you're just going to feed them brand new ones?
Probably a little bit of both, especially in the next 6 months, with baby. With me having a
Sure.
baby, I don't want this to suck any of that time away from this. So at least for the first couple weeks, but then also I had mentioned to her about giving her like a bonus for whoever she brings on like quarterly. So maybe that's 20 or 30 extra dollars for like a new patient that she recruits, because also she is Spanish speaking, so she can kind of unlock a whole population for me
Mhm.
that I haven't been able to get to.
Right,
And
right,
then
right.
I would say by like the beginning of next year, like I will be ready to be back in full force to doing this. And then I also considered like, okay, so what if I did rent a small office and then put her there instead of just being virtual? Like the virtuals just worked for me because I don't want to have to go to an office, but she would be willing to. So I don't know if that is silly at this point also.
You don't have a physical location right now at all?
No.
No. Is this NP in your area? Like, you know this
Yeah.
person? Yeah.
Yes.
Is there room for growth in your area that you think, especially in the
Oh
Spanish
yeah.
population?
Oh yeah, I think so.
Yeah. I mean, it might be worth exploring that. If you do that, though, you probably would have
Mhm.
to have, someone there, a
Right.
medical assistant or whatever. Yeah. I think you just need to do like a market analysis in your area. Like I
Mm,
mean, how much competition do you have? Is there someone serving Hispanics? Um, see if it's actually gonna be worth your while to go find an office space, furnish it, pay for rent, do all those sorts of things.
mm,
I mean, if it's worthwhile, then it's obviously gonna be worth it. Because I mean, I think the hybrid practice is the
mm.
best model. 100% telemedicine tends to be something that's difficult to scale unless you have a lot of money to market it or you
Right.
figure out a way to get patients, right?
Mm,
Um, Either through just paid advertising on Google or whatever, or
mm,
getting involved in communities on Facebook, et
mm.
cetera, that you can provide some value in there and then, get some patients from that. I know a
Yeah.
lot of NPs that will do that in like various testosterone replacement therapy Facebook groups. They'll get in there and, answer people's questions and stuff. And
Right.
they'll mention that they're an NP who owns a, men's health clinic and they get patients that way. It's free
Yeah.
marketing, right?
I've done that, and then I've also I've been like part of like a MOPS group, and I like did a presentation at the MOPS group and gained like a lot of things from that. So I'm kind of just thinking like I'm my ideal patient. Where do I go? What do I do? So
Right, right. Yeah, okay. Um, I mean, just worst cases, you give it a try. You
mm,
know, like, I mean, what's the worst that's gonna happen?
yeah,
Like,
true.
like they see some patients, they don't, it doesn't get very
Yeah,
busy for a little while. Like, I think you just need to make sure that NP's are aware of these limitations that they have, or these
yeah.
expectations, rather.
Super aware that it might not be very. It's like not going to be super lucrative at all for a little while. It's going to
Exactly.
be just a very slow extra thing for her. She's not looking for anything full time. She's kind of towards retirement age, and she doesn't need benefits. She doesn't want full time. Like she just wants a
Mm.
little something to do on the side. Um, so, and like I said, I feel like I know that I can grow this, but I've been hesitant to do it because I don't want it to take all of my time at this point in my life. So,
Right. So this NP's a little bit older, so you're not worried about her
yeah.
wanting to go out and try to start her own thing. You're not worried about
No,
that.
not at all. She said she doesn't even like care to do that. She's very much just I have benefits. I just need a little bit of money to sustain, my life. I'm not trying to jump in and take everything over or start something new at this point. She just wants to be on coast.
So you said that she's nearing retirement. How old is she?
Mhm.
When's she gonna retire? Do you know?
I feel like she's close to her 60s. I'm not really sure. Um, but little backstory, her husband passed away. She told me like that's the thing, like she has benefits, she has income. This is just like an extra thing for her essentially.
Got it. So would you be concerned about her leaving anytime soon?
I don't think so. No.
No, okay. Yeah, I mean, as long as there's about, at least 3 years of life in
Mm.
her in terms of being, an MP in your
Oh yeah.
practice, then
Oh,
yeah,
for
then you
sure,
should
I
be
think
okay.
so.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
okay. Okay, so I'd say just hire her. Hire her as a
Okay.
1099, pay her
See what
production,
happens.
whatever makes sense to you,
Mm.
$50 a visit, whatever.
Uh,
And just start throwing her some patients and see what happens, you
yeah.
know. Um, and then I would say I'd probably start off a little small first, just throw her a handful of patients so she gets her feet
Mm.
wet. And then, when she starts telling you, okay, hey, I'm pretty comfortable with this, let's go ahead and
Mm.
start seeing some more patients, whatever, then just start feeding
Mm.
her more. Um, just have her send a 1099 contract, pay her production, make sure that her malpractice is going to cover her for what you're doing.
Mm.
If she's employed somewhere else, she's not going to be able to use
Mm.
that policy. So she'll have to just get
Right.
like a part-time policy with CMNF group or whatever. And
Yeah.
just make sure that on that policy that they name your LLC as an endorsement.
Okay.
That way, if something ever happened, whenever someone gets sued, they're going to sue the NP and they're going to sue the business.
Right.
So yeah, so make sure that they just name your LLC as an endorsement. If they do that, then if
Yeah.
you get sued, then it's not really a big deal, because
Right.
their malpractice will cover you. Yeah, just do that. Typically, when I hire an NP like that, I will usually just reimburse them for it. You know,
Mm.
I'll be like, okay, go buy just go, go buy a policy with CMNF
Mm.
Group. It'll cost $1,000. Usually, those little
Mm.
10-hour, or less policies are pretty
Okay.
cheap. And just be like, I'll just reimburse you for it. It's not really a big
Okay.
deal. Yeah.
Okay.
Um, yeah, and then just start feeding her some patients, right? I mean, you see what
Okay.
happens. If she starts seeing some more Hispanic patients
Mm.
and she kind of taps into that market locally, then, opening up a physical location might be ideal. But,
Okay.
you getting ready to have a kid and all that kind of stuff, that's probably going
Yeah.
to be 6 to 12 months down the road, right?
Yeah.
unless it just blows up.
Right.
Are you marketing predominantly just locally? Are you just seeing more local patients, but you're just
Oh, so
telemed?
I'm licensed in both Florida and Ohio. And I do have like a strong community in Ohio because that's where we're from. So I would say we're sort of both. But like I said, it's not really like marketing, it's just word of mouth. Like my social media is I hate to say pathetic, but like I posted on it like a few times and then that was it.
Yeah.
And yeah, I've been scared to kind of put myself out there as much because I was like nervous about just the volume and balancing things.
Sure.
But yeah, I don't know. I feel like if this was 5 years down the road and my kids were older, it would be like kind of a different story. So I'm just thinking of ways like I know I can make this business work, but how can I just like hire and kind of sit in the background for a tiny bit and then, pop back in when I'm more available and ready?
Right. So it's that. Yeah. 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 Well, hiring the
Like,
NP is the first step, right? I
right.
mean, that
Yeah.
way, the income generating activity of a clinic is seeing
Mm,
patients, getting them through the door, right?
right.
So if you're always tied to that, then you're always going to be just tied to the business. You're always going to be a slave to the business. You're always going to be
Right.
self-employed. You're not going to be an entrepreneur,
Right.
Um, I've talked about that in previous podcasts before. There's a big difference between being self-employed and being an
Mm,
actual entrepreneur. Being
right.
self-employed, you're just giving yourself a job that you just technically own, right?
Right.
Being an entrepreneur, you build a business that works for you so you can have
Yeah.
time to do whatever you want. Yeah.
Right.
So to shift into that mindset of being an entrepreneur, you need to figure out, how do you just get yourself out of the business completely? I mean,
Mm,
you want to talk about how to sell a business, how to scale a business so you can sell it later.
right.
That's going to be one of the number one things you got to do is you have to figure out a way to get yourself out of the business.
Mm,
Because if someone comes and buys it later on and it's 100% reliant on you, it's too much
mm,
of a risk.
right.
So they like to see that there's, other people doing the work in the background. And so, if they buy your business from you and get hit by a car 2 weeks
Yeah.
later, what do they do, right? I mean, does the business just
Yeah.
shut down and then well, they're out $5 million or whatever, right?
I
So
guess like that's the part I'm like trying to skip is me working so much in it and just
yeah,
being an entrepreneur. Kind of like just going from RN to NP. It was like I had so much flack from that. People are like, you need to be an RN for 10, 15 years. Like, no, I don't.
yeah,
So kind of with the business, I'm like, I don't need to do this for the next 10 years. I want to just get it moving, you know?
right,
So,
yeah. So you're doing the right thing. You're hiring NP, right?
mhm,
So that telemedicine HRT practice that I had that I sold, I never
mhm,
saw a patient, not one time. I saw zero
okay.
patients. Like I literally started it, hired NPs,
Mhm,
and they did all the work for me. I literally just sat in the background. I really didn't do
yeah.
much, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Um, so hire the NP.
Okay.
You're going to have to hire a virtual assistant or a receptionist or
Mhm,
something at some point. I mean, you're just going to
okay.
have to, right? I mean, right now, with this thing still being pretty young, I mean,
And
you're not really
baby.
making a whole lot of money at this point, 15,
Mhm,
$20,000 a month.
mhm,
Um, so like, I don't think it's necessary to go all out building this thing so it just
mhm,
completely runs for you at this moment. But over the
mhm,
next 6 to 12 months, it's gonna be something you're definitely gonna want to do. So, your
mhm,
objective right now, if you can get that other MP to start seeing patients for you, then that should give you some free time to try to, figure out a way to start getting the volume up, you know.
right.
Yeah, I mean, as an entrepreneur, your job is to market and get volume up. Like that's
Mhm,
the true income generating activity that an entrepreneur needs to focus on, right?
okay.
And that's just getting in communities, figuring out what marketing channels you should use. Maybe
Mhm,
developing content or whatever for your website. Just trying to get the
mhm,
word out. That's really should be your main objective as being the actual entrepreneur and
okay.
then leveraging the work of others. So you hire this other NP, you hire
Mhm,
this virtual assistant or receptionist or whatever. Um, Now the business should run really pretty flawlessly by
mhm,
itself,
mhm,
but you have to teach these people what to do.
mhm,
And that's where developing those policies and procedures comes in.
right.
You know, a lot of people develop an SOP manual, standard operating
Mhm,
procedure manual, because they think that it's required. So they just make some bullshit, fluffy
mhm,
SOP that just sits on the shelf. That's not what an SOP is for. The SOP is literally how to teach
yeah,
other people how to do
to
their
be
job,
as
right?
efficient
So you
as
don't have to,
possible.
right? Yeah, so you don't have to do it anymore. Um, and the only way that can really be developed is you kind of just have to run the business for a little while. and
Right. And
begin.
I feel like I've like done that part. I mean, like a baby, tiny bit.
Right. Yeah. So just kind of write down, what it is that you do,
Yeah.
or record some videos on how to do these things.
Hmm.
Just sign up for Loom and just
Hmm.
literally record the screen and just sit there and talk about what it is that you're doing. This is how you order a med. This is how you order labs. This is how you do this or that. You know what I mean?
Okay. Right.
And then just create, and then just open up a Google Drive or whatever, and just upload those videos into it and call it,
Mm.
your SOP or whatever.
Right.
Yeah. Um, so yeah, so you can just do that. That's really all it is. I mean, that's all it's going to take right now is that you
Okay.
just got to get that NP to start seeing patients for you. And
Mm.
then sometime in the near future, 6 to 12 months, you're going to have to get a virtual assistant or someone.
Okay.
But what's going to be complicated for you is that, are you going to open up a physical practice or
Right.
not, or
Hmm.
strictly keep this telemed?
Hmm.
That's going to really, that's going to change what you do quite a bit, because if you get a physical
Yeah.
office, you got to have someone there, right?
Right.
And you ideally would like that person to be there at least 4 days a week, because you'll get
Mm.
walk-in traffic depending on, where you're located.
Hmm.
And so if, let's say if you're in a really good location on a main
Hmm.
road and people see your sign for weight loss or hormone replacement therapy, and they pull in and they go to the door and it's Thursday at 11 o'clock in the morning and it's
Right.
closed, what kind of perception is that? It's
Right.
yeah, that's not a very good first
Yeah. You
impression,
gotta have
right?
someone
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, so you gotta have someone there at least 4 days a week. You're closed,
Hmm.
Friday through Sunday or whatever. That's fine, but you gotta have at least someone
Right.
there 4 days a week minimum, yeah. Um, so yeah, so I guess it really depends on what, where you're gonna be going here in the next 6 to 12 months.
Okay.
But ultimately, you gotta have an MP, and ultimately you gotta
Hmm.
have someone to do the office work for you, right?
Right. Okay.
As you grow and scale, you'll probably be more or less the manager of it for a
Hmm.
time, making
Hmm.
sure that these people are getting paid, making sure that they're
Right.
doing their job right, managing the finances, et cetera. Um, but at some point, if you really want to get out of it, you got to
Hmm.
get someone to manage it for you, right? You got to get
Hmm.
that real true key player.
Okay.
Um, that key player should honestly be probably your receptionist or your virtual assistant
Okay.
once they learn your business, right? But you got to give them
Mm.
6 to 12 months to determine if you can trust them or not. You
Right.
know, yeah, and make sure that they're worth a shit. Um,
Okay.
yeah, like some of these people you hire are going to
Hmm.
be completely worthless. Like,
Yeah.
just makes you really question how people get through life. But
Hmm.
that's a I'm not gonna go down that tangent.
I realized that you have to like babysit every part of your business. Like I've already like seen two like kind of big mistakes, like being mischarged by the pharmacy, and I lost a ton of money. Like I could have been making so much more, but I was like, oh man, I have to be babysitting at every single angle of this. So,
Yeah,
um,
the whole pharmacy bill thing, that can be kind of difficult, right? I mean,
yeah,
you use one pharmacy and you got a few hundred patients who are getting prescriptions from you on a monthly basis.
right.
They send you this invoice, like, yeah, I mean, I don't think they're deliberately trying to scam you out of money. I just think some
Mm,
things just get double checked in their systems and things like that,
yeah,
but like, yeah, you really got to keep an eye on it,
yeah.
which can be difficult. That's very tedious work.
Hmm.
Going through an invoice and then checking the patient's chart to see if things align.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty tedious. Yeah. Um,
Yeah, I just chalked that up to a business lesson. And then I also did just hire a oh my gosh, what's it called? Like a bookkeeper, because I was trying to do it on QuickBooks and like, well, I had like all my accounts linked and they were just a mess. And I spent probably 6 hours with like a QuickBook Live expert and I couldn't figure it out. And I'm like, this is just not worth my time. And so I already feel like, wow, like hiring somebody to do something else is like feels really good. Um,
yeah. Yeah, your books.
I
Yeah,
mean,
don't do
it
your
should have
books.
been very simple and straightforward, but just the way that things like downloaded, like my bank account came twice, and for some reason I
Mm,
couldn't figure it out, and it was a wreck,
right.
but she fixed it.
Yeah. I mean, you can continue doing that yourself if you want, but again, that's kind of
Yeah.
tedious work, right? I mean,
Yeah.
your accountant should have a bookkeeper on staff. And I mean, if your business is very simple,
Hmm.
if you just have one bank account, one credit
Oh, yeah.
card, I mean,
Yeah.
they should be able to create your books for you in
Yeah.
a couple hours, couple,
Easy
$100 or
peasy.
something. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so do you have any other questions in terms of who you need to be hiring or when you need to be hiring
I don't
them?
necessarily think the hiring portion, but just like more ideas for passive income like on my website. So for example, like I am doing full script already. I did sign up with like Illumier MD skincare. So there's a link where people can order. And I had to order like some initial product for that. So I was doing like a gather and glow party to try to just get the word out, which I might do like a virtual one. Because like those are all things that I care about. And then like affiliate links for red light therapy. But what are like, do you have any other ideas of things that like you can just be advertising on your website to just like bring in? And actually labs was like a big one that I have a more specific question about. Like I notice a lot of big places like Level MD or Function Health, like you can just order your lab work and no one has to do anything with it. It's just for like patient education, but it's like, how do they do that without being like completely responsible for it? But then they're also able to come back to you and say, wow, so I did see this and it's really off. And can you help me fix it? Um,
Yeah, the whole lab on demand sort of a thing.
yeah.
The patient just signs a consent essentially stating that,
Okay.
acknowledging that you're not
Right.
responsible for whatever result is there. Like,
Okay.
there's an offer that they can, that we can review it with you, for
Right.
this additional price, or we can bring you on as a patient to go over your your hormones and, treat you or whatever. But,
Mm,
that the lab on demand thing, there's a lot of players in that. It's pretty
mm,
saturated, I mean,
mm,
I go to I recently moved to Colorado
mm.
and, I was getting my lab work at my men's health patient, in another state.
Right.
And now, I mean, obviously I can't do that. So I just go to
Yeah.
like this any lab test now place and just walk in and get
Yeah.
my blood work, It's super easy. It's expensive, but
Right.
yeah, but I mean, that could be a passive income stream for you. I mean, you could definitely offer that if you feel like
Mm,
that it's a needed service in your area.
mm,
But if it's just strictly telemed only,
mm.
you know, I mean, how are people really going to find you just for that when there's a lot of competition in that space?
Right.
You
I guess
know,
I'm just looking at necessarily like the other moms around me, people who are my age who aren't getting to like their visits and they're like, man, I think this is off. I just want my blood work done. And kind of just like marketing to those people who really like don't realize that these other companies exist. Or, I mean, I guess that's like a smaller mental scale to be thinking, and
right?
it's I guess it might not be that much of a generating thing, but
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be anything
yeah.
significant for you unless you really
Okay.
made that your focus.
Mhm.
Like if you really marketed it and made it your focus and did it maybe a little
Mhm.
bit more locally or something. That might be the case, but I don't think that it's
Yeah.
really, really worth your while to go down that
Okay.
path. I mean, you can offer it to see, but I wouldn't expect anything
Yeah.
crazy. Full script,
Mhm.
if you decide to integrate functional medicine into your practice,
Mhm.
um, you're going to be using a lot of supplements and, nutraceuticals and things like that.
Mhm.
And the passive income that you can develop from, full scripts, getting that little 10, 15, 20% or whatever off the top.
Right.
I've talked to some NPs who make quite a bit of money
Yeah.
from that, thousands of dollars a month, but they have a
Yeah.
pretty big practice with a lot of patients who are ordering a lot of supplements.
Mhm.
Um, so that's definitely something that you should do. I mean, there's no question. I mean, why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
I mean, it's super easy money. Um, if you grew and scaled the functional medicine component of your practice, though, you might be better off just buying supplements in bulk and just selling them
Mhm.
directly out of your practice. There's going to be a lot higher
Okay,
margin
like a
there.
location. Okay.
Yeah, be a lot higher margin there
Mhm.
compared to full script. I mean, full script would be giving you 10 or 15, 20%.
Mhm.
If you bought some of these things in bulk and just sold them yourself, I mean, you're talking about a margin of 50 or 60%, right? I mean, a
Right.
lot higher of a margin. Um, But you would need to really develop that functional medicine program out and really figure out what nutraceuticals do you want, what supplements are you
Mhm.
going to actually use more than not, and you order those.
Yeah.
The good news is those things have expiration dates 2 years out. So
Right.
you don't have to worry
Yeah,
about them
okay.
expiring soon. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So that's a good passive income stream. Um, Developing a passive income stream in a practice
Mhm.
is really the way you do it is you leverage the work of others, so it's passive to you. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Yeah. I mean, building things into your practice that are passive in nature usually require a provider to see the patient and then prescribe them something. I mean, if you think about it, really, hormone replacement therapy in general is pretty
Mhm.
passive, right? I mean, if you have someone
Right.
on a subscription-based model and you only see them
Yeah.
every 6 months,
Mhm.
I mean, you have a passive income stream there for 4 or 5 months, you know what I
So
mean?
I think this is something also that I'm doing wrong that I need to switch. And I think it was just simpler in the beginning. Like right now, I'll sell like a 3 month package, and instead of billing them monthly, like I just take all the money up front rather than like every single month. Um, so I feel like I probably should be transitioning to that. So I'm having like
No,
guaranteed,
you
like, or is
have
that
both
bad
have
or?
both have both options.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. If if you can, I mean, in business in general, if you can
Yeah.
get the money up front, always get the money
Take
up
it.
front.
Okay.
Always take it. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Like if you develop some sort of membership program or something like that, and
Mm,
people pay you $100 a month,
mm,
but if you gave them the option of paying for all 12 months for
yeah.
a discount of $100, always take that option because you have all the money up front. Because if they're paying you monthly, they might duck out
Change
6
their
months
mind or
later or
yeah.
something, right? Yeah.
Okay.
So have both options, okay?
Okay.
But if you think about it too, even if you charge up front for 3 months or whatever, I mean, that's
Mhm.
still that's 3 months that you just got,
Right.
$700 or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. So another passive income stream you can do is more the concierge model, right?
Mhm.
If you do functional medicine, do functional concierge medicine, where they pay you
Okay.
monthly,
Yeah.
$100 a month, $150 a month, whatever it is, and they kind of just use you as needed. And what you'll find is that a lot of patients, really healthy ones, don't really need you as
Yeah.
much.
Right.
I use an executive, it's kind of an executive mental health clinic,
Mhm.
mostly just for my ADHD stuff.
Mhm.
And I pay this person, $75 a month.
Mhm.
He doesn't hear from me much. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Right.
Like, yeah, so it's passive income for him. So you can
Yeah.
do stuff like that, where
Okay.
you get someone on a subscription, you get a credit card in, that sort of a thing, and they just
Mhm.
get billed monthly for that sort of a thing.
Mhm.
But lab work, no, I don't think that's going to generate much. The full script could, or if you can sell it out of your practice, that's going to be a good money maker.
Mhm.
But really, you got to kind of be vertical here with the business. You got to
Mhm.
just try to offer as much as you possibly can for each patient. You guys try to increase that lifetime value of the patient as much as possible. So you don't just sell them on weight loss or just
Right.
hormone replacement therapy. Sell them on both if you can, and then
Yeah.
offer other things. NAD injections or NAD nasal sprays, glutathione,
Oh
troches,
yeah, I have
whatever.
that like available. I haven't, but like it's on my website, but I haven't really marketed it. So,
Yeah,
like I
push
said,
it.
I haven't marketed at all.
Yeah.
So,
All right. I hope everyone's enjoying the episode so far. I just wanted to take a quick break to thank everyone listening and also give a big thank you to all of my social media followers and email subscribers. If you haven't done so yet, please subscribe to our email list at www.elitenp.com and make sure to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Email subscribers will receive updates on new weekly podcast episodes, multiple weekly articles we publish, new courses, and everything else related to helping you succeed. Remember, all Elite Nurse Practitioner courses are designed to help you build a niche practice, increase your financial strength, and to break free from the rat race. If I can break free and then other countless nurse practitioners can break free, then so can you. Additionally, please share this podcast with your other nurse practitioner sisters and brothers out there. The more NPs that venture out on their own, the stronger our profession will become. Now, let's get back to the episode.
I mean, imagine what can happen if you actually market this thing. I
I
mean, this is
know.
just word of mouth. Yeah, and
Yeah.
you're doing okay. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I have like another NP who, whenever she gets like denials, she'll be like, oh, this other NP does weight loss, and she'll give them my card. Um, and really like that's been my main source minus like my MOPS group. So
Right, right.
I've just kind of like sat in the background. I could be doing more. I don't know. I don't think that I'm like lazy. I'm enjoying like my life with like my kids. Like my girls are 5 and 6 and they just started school and now I'm having another one. And so I'm
Yeah.
like just trying to enjoy this stage of life. But then I'm like, man, 5 years from now, I'll kill it. But I don't want to like miss this little like part that I like started building with Legos. So
Sure, no, that makes sense. I mean, your line of thinking's correct.
right,
You only got so much time,
right.
and your kids are only 5 years old one
Hmm.
time.
Right.
It only
Yeah,
happens
that's
once.
true.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Starting a business can happen anytime, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't blame you, like
Yeah.
use that time to really enjoy your children. Use that time to,
Hmm.
be present and enjoy life.
Hmm.
I mean, no one's ever going to hold that against you. That's honestly
Right.
what more people should be doing.
Right.
I mean, I've talked to way too many NPs who have completely neglected their entire family, and it's like,
Yeah.
for what? You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. I don't want to like lose out. I'm like, I know I could just go all in right now, but I don't want to. So, um,
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with that. I
yeah.
mean, that is one model of a business is where you start the
Hmm.
business and you just let it organically kind of just do its thing,
Hmm.
word of mouth, and
Yeah.
it works. You slowly do grow.
Hmm.
You only get a handful of new patients every month, but
Hmm.
it does slowly grow over time, and you don't have to put a whole
Hmm.
lot of input into it for it to grow.
Right.
So I mean, that is a model that does work. I mean, my men's health clinic is pretty much there
Hmm.
at this point. Like, we really
Hmm.
don't advertise much anymore. We don't have to. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like, we're pretty content where we're at with our patient volume, and so now it's just word of mouth. We don't really
Hmm.
advertise much, so that's okay. But if you want to fill up that other NP schedule, then
Right.
it might be worth your while to do a little bit of marketing.
Absolutely.
If you do open a physical location up, I would market a little bit
Oh,
locally, try
yeah.
to get some people in the door.
Oh, yeah.
But I guess it really just comes down to what do you want and when do you want it? And you're getting
Right.
ready to have another kid, you have two
Yeah.
other kids.
Yeah.
So, like, what does this look like for you?
Right.
Do you
I
know?
know. And I guess I just don't even know. And I just kind of wanted to like, I don't want to say leverage my husband's medical license. I don't know how that sounds, but like, it's like I have a built in like collaborating physician. Should like we be getting licensed in every single state and like be more available? But is that necessary? Like,
I don't think it's necessary. I
yeah.
talk to NPs all the time who get licenses in, 20 other states. And it's
Mm
like all you're giving yourself is a lot more work to do
hmm.
marketing in
Mm
so many different states and just,
hmm.
you go through the entire process of getting licensed
Mm
in
hmm.
Iowa, for example,
And then you might
and
have like
you
a
market
handful.
and you get like 3 patients
Yeah.
in the entire state, and it's
Right.
just slowly, right? But then
Yeah.
one state hits hard.
Right.
Most people who have $1 million practices,
Mm
almost all of them that I've talked with, almost every single
hmm.
one of them, they do that by having a local business. Almost
Okay.
all of them. Yeah.
Okay.
They do offer telemedicine services to their
Mhm.
patients, and they might
Mhm.
market in some other states or maybe throughout the state or
Mhm.
whatever that they're in. But the majority of their business is
Mhm.
more local or regional
Mhm.
because it's so much easier to market a practice in a local area compared to multiple states
Mhm.
or throughout the country. The only way that works
Mhm.
is if you advertise in very, very specific locations in
Mhm.
the states that you're licensed in. So you don't create Google ads for the
Mhm.
entire state of Iowa. You create Google ads for little towns in
Right.
Iowa that might be lacking those services. That's how you do it and become a little more
Mhm.
successful with it. But
Okay.
it costs money. Advertising's not
Right.
free, right?
So
So
that kind of brings me to like another thought process. We are from a very small town in Ohio, and I always thought like, so both of our families are there. We both grew up there, born and raised. Like everyone knows everybody, and we moved to Florida 8 years ago, and I'm still kind of like getting to know people here. It's a much bigger space,
you're in
but
Florida now?
I'm in Florida
You're
now,
in Florida now?
correct.
Okay.
But I'm like wondering also, like, do I open a little physical location in Ohio? Because I know like that entire community of people, and it's like I have all these like other connections of people that I could be sending to this physical location. Um, But then, yeah, I don't know. Like,
Well, Florida's pretty saturated.
yeah,
Where are you at in Florida?
Melbourne, East Coast. And honestly, like where this area has like expanded. When I first took your classes and I looked into doing like an IV drip bar, I would have been the first in the area, and now there's like six. I'm like if I would have just did it, but oh well.
Well, there's another business lesson, right?
Yes.
Never let go of an opportunity. I mean, if there is an
Yeah,
opportunity in front of you, take
should have
advantage
did
of
it.
it. Yeah,
Yeah.
someone else is going to if you don't.
Yeah, for sure.
So in your area, I would imagine
Mhm.
weight loss, HRT, IV, wellness. I mean, this stuff. I mean, there's competition.
It's yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
Is there competition functional medicine wise?
A small amount, not a
Yeah.
ton.
Yeah. Um, right. So you have to figure out how to differentiate yourself there. You
Mhm.
know, if
But
you
I
did more.
always I just tell myself I need to be Chick-fil-A. Like that's all. Like anytime I get like a little discouraged, I'm like, I just got to be Chick-fil-A and we'll be fine. So,
Yeah, it's a good business model. Um, yeah, I think that if you could maybe differentiate yourself locally there in Melbourne and do
mhm,
more of a concierge-based functional medicine practice or something where you do offer HRT and weight loss
right.
and whatever,
Okay.
that's fine. You mean that's still, HRT is still part of functional medicine. So you got to
Right.
really figure out how you're going to just differentiate yourself in that regard, right?
Okay.
Um, and it can be difficult breaking into a pretty saturated market. So to answer your question, should if you're from a smaller town in
Mhm.
Ohio that is lacking these services,
Mhm.
would it be more worth your while to maybe more focus on that
Right.
or even open up a physical location there, like you said? But with that comes challenges.
Mhm.
Ohio from Melbourne is 1,000+ miles or whatever away.
It's only a 2-hour flight, but yeah.
Right, like, that distance barrier there can pose issues,
Right.
especially if you have someone there managing it for you. You have no idea what they're doing. They could be
Yeah.
stealing from you, stabbing you in the back. You really have no clue.
Yeah.
Yeah. So instead, what you might rather do is have a physical location there, but just kind of
Mhm.
have it be more of a dummy sort of a thing, like it's just there
Okay.
for your Google business listing.
Mhm.
And, just say that we've transitioned over to telemedicine, but we serve the
Mm.
town or whatever.
Right.
I mean, you could try that,
Oh, that's a super good idea because I could definitely get something very, very cheap there. Like cost of living is so much cheaper there than it is here. So,
Yeah. Yeah. So you could do that, and that's always a great idea, just so you can have that Google business listing by
right.
itself. I mean, the Google business listing is so powerful. And
Mm-hmm.
that's one of the issues with the telemedicine practices is that you kind of lack that
Mm-hmm.
because it has to be tied to a physical address. Sometimes you can find a workaround. Sometimes Google might
Mm-hmm.
not like have a virtual address, registered for for a Google business listing. You might be able to
Mm-hmm.
use that, um, but at the end of the day, though, that's so powerful. 50% of our patients at my men's health clinic come from our Google business listing alone. I mean, that is a
Well, okay.
huge marketing channel, right? And
Right.
it's free. So it might be worth checking that out and seeing if that would be worthwhile, especially if there's no competition in that
Mhm.
town in Ohio.
Right. Do you make another LLC like in Ohio, or is it just part of
I
this?
wouldn't.
Or okay.
I mean, you're probably supposed to, but
Yeah.
I mean,
Okay.
whatever. I wouldn't. Yeah.
I mean, what
LLC,
it's working for you, so whatever.
whatever. I just wouldn't even worry about it. Like an LLC, the liability
Mhm.
protection is still applicable in any state. It doesn't matter. Like if you can have an
Okay.
LLC in Wyoming, and if you have a business in Florida operating out of that
Hmm.
Wyoming LLC, you're still going to be protected. Okay.
Okay.
It's just more of a civil regulatory thing. Like
Right.
does the you should have an LLC in each state that you're doing
Hmm.
business in. You should,
Hmm. Hmm.
but it's not that big of a deal. I mean,
Gotcha.
the only thing that you're really the only thing, this is what my lawyers told me. The only thing that you're waiving by not having an LLC in a state that you're operating in is you're just waiving your right to bring on legal action in that state. So as long as you're not planning on suing anyone, who cares?
Mhm. Yeah.
Like,
Okay. That makes
yeah,
sense.
yeah, don't worry about it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, my telemedicine HRT practice that I had, we were in 15 states, 18 states, whatever it was. We operated at one LLC. I didn't care.
Mhm.
Yeah. So, any other questions about that?
Yeah. No, I think like just more in like a 3 to 5 year plan for me, like to scale it. Like, what kind of revenue am I like trying to get to in order to be able to sell? Like, what's my goal to where everything's super efficient, we're generating lots? Like, what does that look like?
Yeah. So, and this is to sell it, right? Like to
Yeah.
eventually try to scale it
Yeah,
to
this is
sell.
like a 5 year plan. By the time I'm 40, peace out.
All
So,
right. Yeah. So number one is you got to get yourself out of the business first and foremost. Like
mhm,
you just got to. Okay.
okay,
So try to get yourself out of the business as much as you possibly can.
okay,
Um, Number two is you definitely want to try to be as regulatory compliant as possible. Like no one's going to buy a
mhm,
practice that is, doing a bunch of shady shit,
right. Yeah.
right? So I mean, as long as you're, using common sense here, you don't really got to
Mhm,
worry too much about that, right? You want to build some sort of, you want to have recurrent income of some sort. So that's why that
mhm,
subscription-based model works so well. Okay.
okay.
If you truly want to build a business, a
Mhm,
practice that
mhm,
sells and is easy to sell, I hate to say it, but an insurance-based practice is going to be easier to sell than a cash-based one. It's just going to be,
okay,
and you're probably going to get a higher multiple for it as well. Like
okay.
you're just going to.
Okay.
There's a lot more private equity in the healthcare space that scoop up practices,
Right.
insurance-based practices. There's a lot more of
Makes sense.
those than there are cash-based ones.
Yeah.
Okay. Now I'm not saying you can't sell a cash-based practice because you definitely can, but
Oh, yeah.
if you accepted insurance and you
Right.
did that, it would be a lot easier to sell and ultimately probably easier to grow and scale because people want to use their insurance, right?
Right.
So I don't know if you even want to entertain that idea, do you?
Not really, but thanks for the advice.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah. So anyone listening, an insurance-based practice is going to be easier to sell. Yeah.
Yeah.
But make sure you have some sort of recurrent income. Like that's
Uh,
super important. Okay. And then at the end of the day, it's all about your net income, not your
mhm,
gross. It's going to be about your net income.
mhm,
Okay. So this is why I tell people that you always should strive for at least a 30 to 50% margin,
okay.
at least. So for every $100,000 you make in gross revenue, 30 to $50,000 of that needs to be profit, right?
Okay.
Like net income. So 30 to 50% margin is what you should
Mhm,
strive for. Most of these cash-based wellness clinics do tend to operate at
mhm.
about a 40% margin, give or take.
Mm.
Okay.
I mean, honestly, I think I was like basically there, but I was just like, oh, I'm gonna go to the Elite NP in Nashville. I'm gonna go to one San Antonio. Oh, we're gonna do all this. So, so I
Right.
was learning,
Yeah,
but
that's fine. I mean, it's a business write-off. You get to travel,
yeah,
whatever.
yeah,
Yeah.
Justin, I've given you a lot of my money, is what I'm trying to say. But I'm
Well, thank.
glad. I'm happy to. Thank you.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have it without you.
Right. Well, yeah. Well, thank you. I mean, the whole point is to
Yes.
try to get you, get you there, right? So,
Right.
but that net income level that you want,
Mm.
it's not even really worth trying to sell this thing until you're at,
Yeah.
honestly, like $500,000 net. I mean,
Okay.
anything less is just, it's, is it going to move the dial in your life? Like
Right.
really,
Yeah.
if you get to $250,000 net
Hmm.
income, okay, let's say it's 500,000 gross, 250,000 net, you might be able to sell that business for $1 million, maybe. Okay,
Okay.
that's a big maybe. All right,
Hmm.
$750,000 would probably be a little more realistic, so about a 3x multiple.
Okay.
So for it to move the dial in your life, right? What number do you need to get at? I mean, so if you're at $500,000 net, you could sell that,
Hmm.
potentially for $2 million. Does that move the
Right.
dial in your life?
Okay.
I mean, I've talked to NPs before who are at $1 to $1.5 million net.
Yeah.
When they sell that business, they're going to walk away with
Solid.
$5 or $6 million. That moves the dial, right?
Right.
$1 million anymore, I hate to say, is not that much money.
I
It's
know.
just,
Yeah.
it's not.
Yeah.
You can't retire on $1 million. It's
Yeah.
just not going to happen unless you live like a bum.
Right. It's true.
So ultimately, what income level does Ciara and her family need
Hmm.
to be financially free? Like, what does that look like, right? I mean, you're the only ones
Mhm.
to be able to answer that. What's your
Right.
mortgage? What's your burn
Right.
rate on your income and stuff?
Yeah.
Is your husband going to continue to work? Like,
Mhm.
what does that look like? Or
Right.
does your husband continue to work?
Yeah.
You build this thing, sell it for
Mhm.
1.5 million or whatever,
Mhm.
pay your house off, pay your debts off,
Yeah.
and now you can just live off of him working, and you could go, work some little
Yeah.
piddly job making, $50,000 a year or whatever. You have no bills, you
Yeah,
know?
I think that's kind of the goal. And that's sort of why I started it. He was a hospitalist and 7 on 7, not really off. And he was so miserable that I was like, all right, I can fix this. I'm going to do it. So then I started, and then he actually got a job in administration that we love Monday through Friday. It's fantastic. If he can stay there forever, then that's great. Like, that's
Yeah.
kind of the idea. And then if I could just work on this and then like toss it and build it and then toss it, then that would be ideal.
No,
So
that'd be ideal, right? It'd give you a
yeah.
huge chunk of money, like I said, pay off all your
Yeah.
debts, whatever, yeah.
Mhm.
But I guess the question for you is, though, it sounds like you like being a mom. So
Yeah.
is 5 years truly,
Reasonable.
is it reasonable? Like, I mean,
Right.
it sounds like you really enjoy you enjoy your children, like hanging out with them and stuff. So, like,
Yeah.
what's the sacrifice here,
Right.
and what are you willing to put into it? That's
Right.
going to
And
be
and I
real.
I do need to sacrifice some more to be able to grow it.
Oh yeah,
So yeah.
you have to. There's no question about it. I mean, you're going to have
Yeah.
to. Like, I've said this before, and I'll say it again. You can only have two of the three. You can either have
Mhm.
family, friends, or your business. You can't have all three. Pick two.
I
That's
know,
it.
100%.
Like, that's it. You can't have
Mhm.
all three of them. It's impossible.
That's why I'm like mom, wife, business. Like, I'm not doing the laundry that day because I'm working on my business or whatever. I mean, I don't know, it's silly. But
Yeah,
yes, you can't be 100% in all the things at one time.
right.
So,
But this is the thing too. When you start generating some actual
mhm,
income in your business, okay,
mhm,
your mind shift might change. What you'll do is you'll basically look at everything in life by a cost benefit sort of
right.
analysis.
Mhm,
Is doing my laundry and cleaning my house really worth my time
right.
when I could hire someone to do it, and I can spend that
Yeah.
time instead doing this over here in my business to make more money, right? Like, I've
Right.
done this before with, like, mowing my lawn, you
Right.
know? I can pay this guy
Yeah.
$150, $200 to mow 3 acres for me.
Right.
That would take me 2 to 3 hours when I could
Yeah.
go do something else, make $500 an hour on my
Yeah.
business. Like, doesn't make any sense to do that, right? Unless you enjoy
Right.
it. But yeah,
Right.
so that might be able to free up some of your time too if you can figure out things
Oh
that you
yeah.
can just more or less outsource.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I've started kind of trying to do that from like going to the millionaire like NP conference and like just listening, just being like a fly on the wall is like so powerful and so like inspirational seeing like all of these people do it. And I'm like, okay, I'm taking notes. I can do this. Um
Ultimately, why most of those people are really, this is in general in any kind of
mhm,
business, is that to get to that $1 million mark in revenue, to
mhm,
actually become a millionaire,
mhm.
obviously it takes a lot of hard work. I mean, it
Oh
does.
yeah.
The right idea,
Mhm,
and then there's the luck component of it. The right place,
mhm,
the right
mhm,
time. There's that factor that's kind of out of your
mhm,
control.
mhm,
But you can make your own luck, right? You do
mhm.
make your own luck. So you got to figure out, how do you increase the chances of increasing your luck, and
Right.
where is that? Is Melbourne, Florida the right
Mhm,
place for that? Are you going to get
mhm,
lucky and start a weight loss clinic or an HRT practice
mhm.
with a bunch of other competition?
5 years ago, I would have if I didn't twiddle my thumbs so long on your page. I was like up at night, like, man, I don't know if I could do this. And now I'm like, I'm a dumbass, but that's okay.
It is what it is, right? You
Yeah.
can't kick yourself in the foot about it. But, like,
Right.
is there somewhere in the area
Right.
that is a service desert that you could go to? Like,
Hmm.
can you drive more, into Central Florida and
Hmm.
drive an hour or two? And can you find somewhere that might
Right.
not have these services?
Yeah.
Sometimes it's worth driving an hour or an hour and a half to a place where you can,
Yeah.
make some money. I mean,
Right.
yeah. So you might want to just do a little more research in your general area to see if opening up a physical
Yeah.
location somewhere, in your area
Yeah.
might be worthwhile. Because at the end of the day, I think having a physical location is going to
Hmm.
increase your chances of success. It's just going to.
Okay.
Yeah. So, any other questions?
No.
All right.
Okay.
I like to end the episode with you asking me a question. You have a question for me, personality, personal curiosity,
Yes.
anything like that?
Yes. What is your favorite passive income? Like, I know that you have like a lot of different things like real estate and like what's your favorite way to passively make money?
My favorite way, real estate's not it.
Yeah.
I hate to say this, but I am fucking done with real estate. It is a pain in the ass.
Good,
Uh,
good to know.
it is, it is not worth. It's just not
uh,
worth it. It's not. I basically sold off. I'm selling off my final Airbnb in April.
oh wow.
Uh,
Okay.
well, here in a couple weeks, we're actually, we're going to list it here in a couple weeks. I'm
Yeah.
selling it. I'm
Yeah.
done. The profit margins are just not there.
Okay.
You do the math and you're like, okay, I'm making a profit of $300 a month, 300
Mm,
bucks, what that pays for one of my grocery bills. Like,
right. It's not worth it.
it doesn't move the dial in your life whatsoever. So
Yeah.
the only way real estate works is that you buy it, you have someone rent it from you for a couple years, you deal with the
Mm,
headaches, water heaters going out, shit like that,
mm,
and then you wait for the price of it, the equity to increase, and then you sell it for the profit. That's where you make the money in real estate, not
mm-hmm.
actual rent. You
Yeah.
just really don't. Yeah.
Okay.
Unless you find a really good deal. But anyways, enough that tangent. I'm selling off all my real estate. So honestly, my favorite passive income stream is the money that I make from my brokerage account.
Okay.
Honestly, just because it's
Yeah.
so hands off. Like it
Yeah.
requires no effort
Right.
whatsoever. You know what I mean? You
Mm,
put your money in these bonds, you put your money in
mm,
these closed-ended funds that are income generating, you know what I mean? That pay you
mm,
8% a month.
right.
You just put your money in there and it's like clockwork every single month. It's just money that comes in every single month.
Mm.
So that's my favorite passive income stream, to be honest with you, just because it
Okay.
requires no input whatsoever. It
Right.
just, I mean, even a lead NP,
Yeah.
it's not passive. You know what
Right.
I mean? I mean, my men's health clinic is mostly passive at this point because I have a
Mm,
manager and I still have, it runs itself at
yeah.
this point, but there's still that headache there. There's still that
Right.
liability, you know what I mean? But
Right.
with putting your money in bonds, there's literally no worry whatsoever. I mean,
Yeah.
the U.S. government defaults are all fucked anyway, so it doesn't matter.
Yep.
You know what I mean? It doesn't matter anyways, right? We're all
Yeah.
screwed. Yeah. Like,
Yeah.
yeah. But anyways though, so yeah. So yeah,
Okay.
that's where you start funneling your money into when you start making money. You gotta
Okay.
first gotta generate the income, right?
Right.
Where do you get the income to then invest into those passive income streams,
Mm-hmm.
Building an income that is completely passive in nature is very difficult to do
Mm.
without having that initial capital to do it,
Right.
you know?
For sure.
So,
Yeah.
yeah. So, anyways.
Okay. All right. Thank you so so much. I really appreciate your time and everything that you've done. It's been super helpful.
Nah, you're welcome. It was a pleasure talking to
Mhm.
you. Thanks for hopping on here on a random Wednesday morning
Oh yeah.
afternoon. So,
You got it. Thank you.
I
All
think. Bye.
right. Bye.
All right. I hope everyone enjoyed the episode with Ciara. A lot of good stuff that we talked about there. She probably needs to really determine what she wants to do in the next 6 to 12 months. She's pregnant. She's getting ready to have a kid. She's got two other kids, right? She's been kind of just letting this business sort of just do its own thing organically, which is, that's fine. A lot of businesses tend to do very well if they just kind of let it do its own thing, but it does take a while, right? So I think that she needs to determine where's the life work balance. How does she balance her family? How does she balance this business? And where does that take her, the next year? She's taking the right steps right now, hiring another NP so she can stop seeing patients. And then eventually she's going to need to hire, a medical assistant or receptionist, that sort of a thing. So ultimately, if you want to build a business that truly is passive in nature, you just got to let go, hire other people, and let it work for you. That way you can find that balance, with your business and your family. So, all right, hope everyone enjoys this episode. Talk to you guys later. Thanks. Bye.
Thank you for listening to the show. Quick legal disclaimer. The content of this podcast is meant for informational and entertainment purposes only and should not be used as legal, financial, medical, regulatory, or practice-specific advice. For information pertaining to your specific legal, financial, medical, or practice-specific needs, please be sure to consult with your lawyer, CPA, medical director, and/or your state's practice laws and the most up-to-date clinical guidelines. As always, do your due diligence when it comes to any information found online and in podcasts. The content in this podcast is copyrighted by Galaxy Medical Southwest 2023 and cannot be duplicated, rebroadcasted, or reproduced without our written permission.